rose to barbaric yesterday.
Civil war. I was given a briefing that certainly had its origins in the Foreign Office, which was to the effect that a sort of rather dissident band of renegades in the eastern Nigeria were trying to head a secession of eastern Nigeria from the main federation, that they had no support from the local people. They were led by a rather weird colonel, and that the Nigerian army, with its magnificent British training, would wrap the whole thing up in 10 days.
There were two wars fought in Nigeria. The one was the military war. The second was the propaganda war. Because after secession, Biafra was blockaded by air, land and sea. And so it had no outlet. It therefore had to turn to propaganda to make the rest of the world aware of what Biafra was suffering.
This year, it's a matter of life and death. There's been a war going on in West Africa for 2 years now. It's a civil war between the Biafrans and the Nigerians. We're not going to say which side is right or which side is wrong, except that all war is always wrong. No matter whose fault it is that thousands are dying every day, it isn't his fault.
October 1960, a new nation is born. Nigeria, the pride of Africa. Nigeria, the land of the Yorubas, the Hausas, the Igbos.
At the independence celebration in 1960, October 1st, I used to sprint. And I felt as though I was standing on my marks at the beginning of 100 meters. And I just wanted the ceremony to get off so that we can get on to the real business of nation building and startling the world, let them know we have arrived.
Like many African countries, Nigeria was the creation of imperial draftsmen. Within its boundaries, the British had brought together 3 great tribal traditions. In the north lived the Fulani and their Hausa vassals. The British had left intact their feudal privileges. In the west, Yoruba rulers had found new tokens of power and prestige. In the east, where the Igbos were the major tribe, British influence had come through mission and school. The Igbos became known as the Jews of Africa and took over the administration of the colonial state.
Remember, this was the mid-60s, and the big wave of African independence in the French and the British possessions came in about 1960 in the Congo and so on. And so we had about 5 or 6 years of disappointments, basically. Very few success stories. And people in Africa and outside Africa were saying, well, you know, where's the success story? Let's look. And Nigeria was the great hope. It was the great black hope of Africa.
With their educational advantage, the Igbos spread throughout the country as traders and public servants. But in the impoverished north, their presence was not always welcome.
There was resentment in the north towards the Igbos because they thought that they occupied everything in the place. They were civil servants, they were railwaymen, they were teachers. They wanted the Igbos to go home because they had taken the jobs of all the northerners.
In 1966, the bubble of resentment that had been building for years against the Igbos burst in a rage of communal violence. Northern civilians and soldiers rose in a vicious ethnic pogrom. Thousands of Igbos lost their lives. Hundreds of thousands more fled home to the east. When the federal government proved incapable of halting the pogroms, Ojukwu, then a colonel and military governor of eastern Nigeria, grasped the opportunity. Showing from the first a gift for propaganda, Ojukwu mobilized the Igbos for secession from the north.
Ojukwu's public relations were very good. The propaganda necessarily appeals to the senses and sensibilities of people. And so to the domestic constituency, Ojukwu targeted the information that if they did not go along with Biafra, the Northerners were going to advance and carry on the jihad and kill everybody off in eastern Nigeria and dip the Quran in the sea. That was the euphemism used.
This is not an occasion to stir up emotions, but it is impossible to forget that men, women, and children of our kith and kin were taken out of their beds and slaughtered. They were massacred in places of worship, in the streets, in marketplaces, and in vehicles trying to carry them to safety.
Our people were being massacred all over Nigeria. And to be able to give them better protection in the circumstance available, when within the means available to me, what was done was, once you cross this line, you are home and safe. And Biafra, to a large extent, was in fact that line. I cannot go to Kaduna and bring people back.